Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a story so incredibly ancient, yet so profoundly relevant, that it's going to completely flip how we view patience and tragedy. We're looking at the mysterious, kind of mind-boggling encounter between Prophet Musa, who you might know in English as Moses, and an enigmatic figure named Khidr. Get ready, because we're about to explore how this story entirely redefines our grasp on reality. So let me ask you this. How can destruction and loss actually be acts of divine mercy? I know, it sounds totally contradictory, right? When we lose something, we feel robbed. That's just human nature. But what if the absolute worst things that happen to us are actually protective shields? What if they're meticulous setups for future success? That right there is the central, mind-bending paradox of the story we are about to dive into. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the mysterious meeting. Our source material sets up a truly fascinating premise here. Musa, who is a mighty prophet completely accustomed to receiving direct divine guidance, is sent out to meet Khidr. Now, Khidr is incredibly special because he possesses a very specific, highly guarded type of divine knowledge. It's the knowledge of the unseen, something that no prophet, not even Musa, had received yet. So Musa naturally asks to tag along as a student to learn this unseen wisdom. But Khidr's response? It's immediate and it's blunt. He says, "You will not be able to bear patience." Basically, Khidr operates on a level of unseen logic that's going to make his actions look completely irrational, maybe even crazy to an outsider. To let Musa join him, Khidr lays down this ultimate unforgiving rule. 3 strikes, and the journey ends forever. No exceptions. Musa must remain completely silent. He is absolutely forbidden from questioning a single action Khidr takes, no matter how confusing or bizarre it might appear. Now, Musa is highly confident in his own discipline and his prophetic patience, so he agrees. And with that, they set off. Moving right along to Section 2, 3 baffling trials. Musa is about to be dragged through 3 escalating, genuinely shocking events that are going to test absolutely every single fiber of his prophetic sense of justice. 1. Sinking a kind man's boat. 2. Ending a child's life. 3. Doing free labor for a totally cruel town. You guys, these are not minor misunderstandings. Let's look at how these rapidly push Musa to his absolute breaking point. Okay, so the first trial is incredibly tense just because of the sheer ingratitude it seems to show. Picture this. Musa and Khidr are standing by a raging river. A poor, deeply generous ferryman sees their worn-out clothes, realizes they can't pay, and actually offers them a free ride in his old boat. It's a beautiful moment. But then, halfway across the river, Khidr suddenly grabs a heavy stick and violently smashes a hole right through the bottom planks. Water literally starts rushing in. From Musa's perspective, this is pure madness. Why on earth would you destroy the only livelihood of a man who just showed you immense mercy? Unable to contain himself, Musa speaks out against the apparent injustice. Khidr simply turns and reminds him of the rule. Strike 1. So they continue walking, but as you can imagine, the tension is incredibly thick. Then the second trial hits, and it's terrifying in its suddenness. They encounter a sweet, innocent young boy. The source notes the immense love the parents had for this child. He was literally their whole world. Suddenly, without any provocation whatsoever, Khidr strikes the child down, ending his life instantly. Musa is completely horrified. He is a prophet of justice. His righteous anger explodes at this unforgivable, brutal act. He demands answers, completely forgetting his promise. Khidr sternly warns him again. Strike 2. Moving on from that heavy moment, they finally reach a dusty, isolated town. By now, Musa and Khidr are starving, utterly exhausted, and desperately thirsty. They humbly ask the townsfolk for just a little water and food, but the people are incredibly hostile and blatantly refuse them even basic human hospitality. Yet right in the middle of this cruel town, Khidr notices a collapsing wall. And instead of resting, he silently begins the grueling, heavy manual work of rebuilding it. Musa, who is famished and aching all over, joins him under the scorching sun. When the back-breaking work is finally done, Khidr asks the hostile townsfolk for absolutely zero compensation. Nothing! Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, the breaking point. At this point, Musa is physically drained and mentally reeling from the boat and the boy. His body aches from doing unpaid labor for people who actively hated them. His legendary patience, finally, completely shatters. He turns to Khidr and snaps, essentially demanding to know why they didn't at least ask for a small wage just to buy some food. And, well, there it is, strike 3. Khidr simply replies, "This is the parting between me and you." The tension has completely peaked. The ultimate rule has been broken for the final time, and the mysterious journey is abruptly over. But right before they part ways forever, Khidr finally lifts the veil. Let's take a breath and dive into Section 4, Unseen Realities Revealed. Get ready, because everything we just witnessed is about to be completely flipped upside down. Let's look at the first trial. Musa saw a ruined boat and what looked like a really cruel act. But Khidr reveals a stunning hidden reality. Just an hour down that river, a tyrant king's massive army was forcibly seizing every single flawless boat they could find. By smashing a hole in the ferryman's boat, Khidr purposely made it defective. So the king's army just passed right over it. That seemingly cruel act of destruction was actually a surgical, strategic act of divine mercy that literally saved the poor man's entire source of income. Amazing, right? Now, this second trial is deeply agonizing. Musa saw unbearable, senseless cruelty to a child, but Khidr reveals an incredible, albeit difficult, hidden mercy. The divine knew this child was destined to grow into a ruthless tyrant. He wouldn't just oppress thousands, he would violently force his deeply pious parents to abandon their faith. The child's early death actually granted him paradise in his innocent state, all while protecting his parents' eternal souls. The divine plan was to replace him with a righteous, loving child who would care for them in their old age. What looked like sheer, unexplainable tragedy was actually an ultimate spiritual rescue mission. Finally, the third trial. Musa saw exhausting, unpaid labor for a town full of cruel people. The hidden reality? That collapsing wall actually belonged to 2 young, highly vulnerable orphans. Beneath it lay a hidden treasure left by their righteous deceased father. If that wall crumbled now, their greedy, cruel uncle would swoop right in and steal all their gold. Khidr rebuilt the wall to secure their financial future and to honor the legacy of their good father. And there's this really fascinating layer of precision here with the number 18. You see, Khidr didn't just casually patch up the wall, he built it with such specific structural strength that it was destined to stand for exactly 18 more years. Why that highly specific time frame? Because that is exactly how long it would take for those 2 little orphans to grow into strong young men capable of claiming and actually defending their rightful inheritance. This just beautifully highlights the absolute long-term precision of the divine plan. Every single detail is calculated. And that brings us to our final takeaway, Section 5, Trusting the Unseen Plan. When Musa hears these truths, he realizes a profound reality about existence itself. His immense knowledge was still completely limited by human perception. Think of it this way. What we actually see and experience in our daily lives, the apparent pain, the broken boats, the collapsing walls, is just a tiny, tiny 5% sliver. The other massive 95%, that is unseen wisdom. That's what the divine knows. We spend so much of our lives reacting, crying, and getting incredibly angry at that 5%, completely blind to the 95% of reality that is actively working behind the scenes to protect us, redirect us, and save us. Think about the apparent tragedies we face in our modern lives right now. A sudden job loss, devastating financial ruin, or the agonizing pain of losing a loved one. Just like Musa's trials, these moments feel like pure, unadulterated destruction. But what if that sudden job loss is actually your broken boat, keeping you out of a scenario that would have completely destroyed your life? What if your current immense hardship is actively shielding you from unseen dangers or meticulously setting the stage for huge future blessings? This is exactly why our source material emphasizes the incredible power of saying Alhamdulillah, which means all praise belongs to God, even in the face of absolute defeat. It's all about adopting a mindset of profound humility and trust. True peace doesn't come from having all the answers or perfectly understanding every single thing that happens to you. True peace comes from wholly surrendering to the unseen plan, knowing deep down that the architect of that plan has a much, much better view of the horizon than you ever could. Which brings us to a final, lingering question for you to ponder. When the lights inevitably go out in your life and absolutely nothing seems to make sense, will you choose to trust the 5% you can see or the 95% you cannot? Keep that in mind the next time you face a broken boat in your own life. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.